This lesson's on recognising graphs and sketching graphs. Specifically, we're going to look at cubics and how we can draw cubics from the points of intersection of the coordinate axes. But we're also going to look at some basic graph shapes for graphs you need to know. Okay, so let's start off looking at this cubic here, which can be factorised like so. These factors here give us values, roots, when y is 0. So in other words, y is 0 is the x-axis, so our x-intercepts, the points where the graph crosses the x-axis, will be where any of these brackets are 0. So if we're multiplying three things together, if one of them's 0, then y will be 0, won't it? So we get x-intercepts at -3, making this bracket 0, or where x is 2, making this bracket 0, or where x is 5, which makes this bracket 0. To find the y-intercept, we make x 0, and that leaves us with 3 times -2 times -5, which gives us 30. So we have a y-intercept at 0, 30. Okay, we're only sketching, so the graph doesn't need to be perfect. So we just mark off our points now. We have -3, 0, which is this point here, at -3. We have 2, 0, which would be about here. And we have 5, 0, which we can put over here. We also have this y-intercept at 30. We can draw our cubic going through these points. Like so, and that's good enough. So that's all we really need. We need to get the points of intersection of the axes correct. The only other thing that's quite important is to make sure that we put the maximum point in a kind of sensible place. Because we've got 2 here and -3 here, it's reasonable to assume that this maximum point here is going to be this side, this negative side of the y-axis, because there's more here than there is here. If we put it through at 30, that might be marked wrong in an exam question, or for that matter if we put it this side. Because we've got a bit more space this side, it's reasonable to assume it's going to be here. We sometimes get cubics with repeated factors. If we factored to these 3 linear factors, then it can be written like this. When we have repeated factors, it means the function touches at that point. That actually the x-axis is a tangent. So we will draw this with the point here, because we've got this repeated, 3, 0, with x as 3, which would 0 these brackets, will be repeated. So what does this look like? Again, it doesn't need to be really accurate. We've got -2, 0, so we can put that at -2. We've got 3, 0, so mark that point there. And the only other point we've got is 0, -18, so it doesn't need to be to scale. We'll mark that point there. Now we know that the graph goes from there to there, and we know it goes through -2, 0, so that point there is going to go like this. And then this point here is repeated, so it will just bounce off. So the important points, the 3 points where the axis is either intersected or touched in this case. Notice that the minimum point is this side, and again that's because we've got 2 here and 3 here, so the minimum point I've put just to the right of the y-axis. Okay, here's some graphs to try on your graphic display calculator. Put these in, try them out, see what they look like. Okay, we'll have a quick go at this. If you're successful with this, you'll be ready for the lesson. Okay, that's what you should have got. If you expand that out, you end up with this, and then gather the terms and the coordinates of the points where this curve crosses the axes. Well, it crosses the y-axis where x equals 0 at minus 180, and crosses the x-axis where y equals 0 where x is 6, where x is minus 10, and where x is minus 3.